Guys, Season 8 is officially in a Brawl meta, and there's a lot I want to talk about, a lot of things I have to say. I'm sure you guys have a lot of things you want to say, too, in the comments down below about this Brawl meta. But the first thing I want to say is this meta has been forced with Dino. This is not some crazy balancing update where they buffed all the Brawlers and they nerfed other things. Because we did just go from 2 seasons of Heavy Dive into Brawl. And it's as clear as day that we are in a Brawl meta because dive players are not happy. And I will talk more about that later in the video. But we are in a Brawl meta and Devil Dino has forced it. So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the Brawlers that are performing very well. And I want to talk about them specifically. Like Punisher, Moon Knight, Iron Fist, Blade, fantastic. So starting off, I will talk about Iron Fist. Now, a lot of players that saw these Iron Fist buffs, specifically Iron Fist players, were like, this is not going to be a meaningful buff. Now, if you were to put it in the context of last season, it is not that meaningful of a buff because it's a dive meta. And getting your block back 1 second or 2 seconds faster doesn't mean much when your goal is fast time to kill on a dive, right? Really, you're only looking at the kick damage, which doesn't do much unless you're in your ult. However, in this season, which is heavy Brawl, him getting that block back faster is now a very big buff. 2 seconds back on your block is very fast when you're hard brawling on the front line. So Iron Fist is in a pretty good spot this season. I would put him in a solid B tier hero. The reason you're not seeing him getting played that much is primarily because people are used to him being bad, and also not a lot of people simply play Iron Fist. He's not meta enough to where people that don't play him are going to start playing him. He'd have to be A tier or higher for that to happen. Similar situation with Blade. Blade is now a solid pick. I would put him in like B tier. Blade's actually good. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Blade because everyone just sees him as the bad hero and he's been bad. But into a Dino matchup, this is very important when I'm talking about Iron Fist and Blade, is if Dino was in the game, that is why we have a Brawl meta. Because if Dino gets banned, it just goes back to last season. Or who are the most broken heroes? Daredevil and Phoenix and Black Cat. You know, two divers and one really strong poke. Now, this is the important thing to talk about. I know a lot of dive players aren't happy, right? But at the same time, we're still permabanning dive heroes. Dive heroes are still meta, by the way. Even though we're in a Brawl meta, because if you're playing Daredevil Black Cat, you can just ban Dino. Suddenly, we're back to a dive meta. Next thing I want to talk about is Mr. Fantastic, okay? I think it was criminal that they gave him a compensation nerf after they give him a minor buff. They did the same thing with Phoenix when Phoenix is a broken hero. Like, of course you compensation nerf Phoenix because she's busted. How in the world are you going to compensation nerf Mr. Fantastic? I thought that was pretty criminal, and he deserved bigger buffs. This is, again, why the only reason we're in a Brawl meta is because they forced it with a Dino brawling tank. So a lot of the Brawl heroes are shining now because they're good into Brawl, right? Mr. Fantastic, however, despite being a meta that should favor him, he's still really bad. I think they should have gave him a much bigger buff, a much more unique buff. Now, I'm not a Fantastic player, so I can't comment specifically on what they should buff. I don't quite know how his full kit works. What I do know is that his buffs were not enough because he gets outclassed by almost everyone into a Brawl meta, including Poke. Even though it's a Brawl meta, I'd still rather have like a Phoenix or an Elsa or a Punisher or a Moon Knight or an Iron Fist or a Blade or a Wolverine. Literally almost anyone. Then you have heroes like Punisher and Moon Knight who are not full-on Poke heroes. So I think it's fine that they're strong. A lot of people say gun equals poke. Well, yes and no, right? Yes and no. Range doesn't necessarily equal poke because heroes like Punisher and Moon Knight, they lose to poke, right? Phoenix, Hela, Hawkeye. These heroes that for the entire history of the game, they check Moon Knight. They check Punisher because they have longer range and more damage at range. They counter them. And it's clear as day because we see heroes like Hela and Elsa are not as good into the Dino matchups as Punisher and Moon Knight. Phoenix, you could say, is, but that's just because she's broken as a whole. But Hawkeye, Hela, Namor, Elsa, these heroes, while they might be okay still, even still good, they are not as good as Punisher and Moon Knight. These are much more brawl-oriented shooters, right? Moon Knight does damage the more people are stacked. If a Hela's taking an off angle, she wins the 1v1. Punisher, a lot of his value, as we saw from Toothless getting rank 1. For those of you that don't know, a shotgun-only Punisher hit rank 1, and that caused a mass shotgun Punisher spree where everyone's playing shotgun Punisher. His shotgun is one of the strongest components of his kit, and we're seeing it shine now in the Brawl meta. Not even his gun, but his shotgun. You could literally just play shotgun-only Punisher, sit on the front line, and get a lot of value. So the poke heroes that are doing best are the Brawler ones. And then you look at the Brawl heroes that are doing good. Like, Thing is pretty good. Groot's pretty good. Groot is a certified Brawler. He's doing quite good now as well. Groot, Thing, a lot of the Brawl tanks. So if you're a tank player that, you know, is playing a more Brawl tank, you're finding a lot more value probably, like Thing or Groot. Even maybe Strange, who has a lot of frontline damage. Or Emma. Emma has so much value right now. Emma's being played a lot because she's actually really good into the Dino. Especially with her Crystal. Emma is a strong pick into Dino. I know because I've been scrimming a lot of Dino comps, and Emma is a very powerful pick into the Dino comp. So no, not all tanks are unplayable into Dino. It's just that some tanks are better into Dino than others, like Thing, Groot, Emma. Very strong. Now, there is a lot of dive players that are really complaining about the fact that we have a Brawl meta. In theory, all right, in theory, the way it's supposed to work is dive counters poke, poke counters brawl, and brawl counters dive. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, the reason why we're in a Brawl meta is it happens that the best heroes in the game are still dive heroes. Daredevil and Black Cat are two of the most banned heroes in the game. They're banned way more than Hela or Namor. And Phoenix is only up there because she just got buffed, and so she's just broken now. But also, Daredevil and Black Cat are banned more than Elsa, by the way. They're banned more than Elsa. Hawkeye doesn't even exist anymore, really. And I'm talking mostly about Celestial Plus when I'm talking about these bans. Not early season, like late season Celestial Plus. Even in GM. In GM, you still see some Black Cat and Daredevil bans, but then you start banning like more weird stuff like your Punisher and Penny and Moon Knight because they get so much easier value in those ranks. But we still have really strong dive heroes, even though we're in a Dino-enforced Brawl meta. But look, we had 2 seasons in a row of dive. Big Whoop, Spider-Man, Magic, Black Panther, Daredevil, Black Cat. They're not ideal, keyword ideal, into a Dino matchup. Big Whoop, a tank that's great against dive because you can't kill him. Okay, it is what it is. It's a new meta. Suck it up, right? Now, you can still just ban Dino, by the way. You can still just ban Dino. Remember, you have 3 bans. You could just ban Dino, and then we go back to dive meta. Like, it's that sensitive. It really is a Dino-enforced meta, which is why I'm kind of upset that with the balancing patch notes, they weren't more insistent on the Brawl meta with who they buffed. They could have gave Blade another little buff, a better buff to Fantastic, a buff to Iron Man, who is a good brawler. He can do a lot of frontline damage. He doesn't just sit high in the sky and poke the backline. That's what you do in low ranks, in really low ranks, because no one shoots you. But in like actual, like more serious competitive elos, Iron Man is good on the front line because he can beam tanks and has a lot of splash damage. He has some of the highest DPS in the game with his armor overdrive. I'm sad they didn't buff him. He could have been a solid pick into this meta. We could have had a lot more. We could have had such a more diverse meta if they gave more buffs to brawlers. Like, guys, imagine they buffed Mr. Fantastic significantly. Imagine they buffed Blade more. Now it's not just Punisher, Moon Knight. Now it's Blade, Mr. Fantastic, Iron Fist, Iron Man. We would have had... And Squirrel Girl could have used a buff as well because she is also really good when everyone is sitting in main. And so there's a lot of heroes that could have been so good this season. We could have seen so many heroes shine that didn't get the chance before. Which is why I'm really hoping that going into Season 8.5, what I'm hoping we see is buffs to some of these heroes. A Squirrel Girl buff to her Brawl ability, an Iron Man buff, a Blade buff, a better Mr. Fantastic buff, and maybe a nerf, maybe just a slight nerf, okay, to some of Moon Knight's damage output. Nothing else in his kit. And I actually think they should compensate buff him with some of the more skill-expressive components, like his mobility. They should give him another mobility buff. They should. But they should they should nerf his AoE damage. Maybe they could buff his primary damage, like the first target you hit, but they should nerf his AoE damage. He's simply too good into this meta. But I would love to see some buffs to some of the brawlers, because this has the chance, guys, I'm telling you, this has the chance to be such a diverse brawler season. Next season specifically, because I don't know if they're going to give us those kind of meaningful buffs during this season, but next season has the chance to be such a meaningful, diverse brawl season with tons of viable picks that we've never seen before, and I get excited thinking about it. The entire pro versus casual player divide. There are so many developments on it, so I'm going to make a new video on that soon, probably. But what I do want to say in this video is I think a big reason a lot of pro players aren't happy is because a brawl meta is kind of spammy at times, and they feel like on their end it reduces some of the skill expression in the game, because a lot of value in taking off angles is reduced, and I do understand where they're coming from. I get where they're coming from. There's like slowing down the game and spending time to make plays is something that would happen with Dino's not in the game. But with Dino in the game, it is a lot more spammy. So while I do get where they're coming from, it's fun at the end of the day. It's really, really fun. And there is a way to make sense of that chaos. On the level they play on, I know they're able to do it, and it's to make sense of that chaos. And so all of us as players that are playing in the majority of the ranks of the game, which is everything that's not like Eternity, is where most of the players aren't even at Celestial, right? And people just want to have fun. Like, we're forgetting when the player numbers leaked for PlayStation 5, there was 1.5 million players that played the game in the past week on just PlayStation 5. It is such a casual-oriented game, and although the hero might need some nerfs, I really think he's forcing a brawl meta. If you nerf him now, the brawl meta is gone. I think what they should do is they should nerf him lightly and buff other brawlers so we can keep a brawl meta. And then they need to think about how else they can cause this brawl meta to keep going. I think it'll be really, really disappointing, like so disappointing, if they nerf Dino and don't buff any of the people I've mentioned in this video, like Iron Man, Fantastic, Blade, anyone that could be a strong brawler. I will be so disappointed, because it means we're just going to get a Dino-enforced brawl meta, and then that's it. Then they nerf Dino, and we're back to the same crap. I think this is so refreshing for us as a community, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of creative ideas of how they can make this brawl meta more of a diverse, unified brawl meta, less of a Dino-anchored brawl meta. I want to know what you guys think on this. What are your creative ways to do it? Because there's plenty of ways to do it. That's all for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, turn the bell for notifications so you can see when my videos are. And as always, guys, take care.